Thank you so much for being here. I'm aLex. This is a weekly class together through or practice through Sun and Moon Yoga Studios YouTube portal. Did I say that already? My name's aLex. Um, it's about a half hour, and we're here every Sunday Eastern Time at 10 o'clock. Um, but just while the studio's in session. So tomorrow will be the last day of the session. If you're signed up for classes, that's the last day to get your makeups in if you have that kind of pay package. So, and then there will be we are off for a little while from regular scheduling and start up again on January 2nd in the new year. So I was not clear on all that last week. So I will be here next week, but the 29th, I won't be broadcasting here. So, and of course, you can pick these up later, of course, these recordings. So during the break, we also have, as we have for years now, we have short classes, 1 hour classes, usually one or two a day at the studio. Well, check the schedule. Mine is on the 24th, I'm pretty sure. Again, I need to check that in the morning. I think I'm in the morning. So you could just drop in for those. And I think those will not be recorded. Those are in person only. So, but we've got so many recordings here on the YouTube's channel that if you need a class, you can go back through the videos through pandemic times. And there were half-hour classes, many, many to choose from. So there's always something to inspire us. So let's get to it. Let's ground ourselves. Scooch back a little. So if you're here, I'm hoping the sound is good. I've got a heater going and I've put on my headset on noise cancellation. So hope the recording's working and that you won't be hearing a buzz of the heater. You might be hearing my earrings. Ooh, jingling. That could be annoying. We'll see. So December 15th it is today, a cloudy day. So the first day that I can use a candle for our practice. Let's arrive. So if you haven't already gotten things ready as I'm getting us grounded, I'm just folding up this scarf, which I could use to toss over me, but it's also a nice prop for my leg. Can use our props in multiple ways. Oh, arriving. Let yourself feel the weight of your body as we begin this practice of presence, of coming more fully to our whole presence and integrating more and more of ourselves so that we feel more here, we become the conduit for the life force coming through us more and more skillfully, more and more lovingly, more and more compassionately. And that often needs to start with just really embodiment and starting with checking for how you actually feel the solidity of your body, our body right here and now, relative to the ground, to the gravitational hug of the earth, to the space around us. But for now, just feel into the parts of your body that are touching the ground. And you could be lying down for this practice. You could be uh, sitting on a couch, on a chair, or like me, sitting on the floor. And so as we start to get quiet enough to actually feel the weight of your ankles or the soles of your feet, the temperature that the skin, the nervous system is conveying, to our knowing, to our perceiving. You may start to get quiet enough to start to feel also your breath, maybe even your heartbeat. And then just this bringing of our attention to the present and ourself, our body and breath this way. You may already feel a shift in the way your mind feels, your energy feels. Right? Bringing our attention to our physical body and our breathing can start to tether the mind to this now moment as well. And there is nothing wrong with the mind's wanderings and projections into the future, into the past. It's part of our creative process and um, feeling what we need to do next, but it's just a part, and it's so valuable to come back to this place, to presence, to now, this eternal moment, to, in a sense, slow down or sever for, at least for a bit, this those wanderings of the mind, those directions. So tune into your breathing and just as as much as possible without interfering. It's a little challenging in a way to not interfere with the breath's movement because, again, like with our mind, this is but different. We can participate in our breathing. We can deepen it. We can uh, uh, invite it to fill different parts of our body. But if we're not attending to it, it takes care of us. It takes care of us in the most basic way. It continues its job of providing oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide, taking in the new nourishment of releasing what's the refuse that becomes food for plants, part of the food for plants. And so as you're listening to your breath, listen also to sounds around you, within you, closer and farther away. And notice how you feel through your body, through your shoulders, through your face, through your spine, allowing that relaxing down as you receive these sound waves, the changing textures of breathing. And last week, I took us into sensing in our body, and I'm going to go back in that way. And I've been thinking of Mary Oliver's poem that Starlings in Winter that mentioned the stippled describes the movement of starlings like a stippled star. And our teacher Enid, she once used as a teaching prop for breath. She brought in one of these toys, a collapsible, made of plastic parts, like a geodesic dome of many, many little parts that could collapse in and go out like a sphere, and then collapses into a little ball, and you could open it up. You've probably seen those. Maybe I'll make that the image on here. the thumbnail. But, our breath sort of feels like that. It can take these shapes that are, well, like the starlings. It's not necessarily the same shape each time in the feeling of the chest and the lung space. And, as I take this image, maybe that's a very pleasing, soothing image, but I invite you to find an image or a time for when you felt when you something that's very like that, that's very soothing. Perhaps it's a blanket, a warm blanket, and that's even a term used for some interrelational work. To have that image of what's for you a warm blanket could be a blanket in your house, a nice fleece, or a throw, or a down comforter, or perhaps it's a food or a tea, a particular herbal tea, a smell, and that gives you a soothing feel. And bring that to mind. What I'm doing right now is providing a resource. It's like to remember when we're going to next visit something more difficult, but to have this resource of something that makes us feel cared for, makes us feel safe and in our presence. It's very, very useful to have that. Perhaps it's a poem that you know. Another very useful thing is to have yeah, a repertoire of poems that we memorize, even if it's just a couple. Perhaps it's a person or an animal or a stuffed animal that brings you comfort. So bring one of those to mind, and then as you hold that in your mind's eye, you got it. You have your item. Begin to notice how you feel in your breathing as you feel yourself with this soothing being or place or thing. How you feel in the texture of your body and your breathing. And even if you're imagining something that's not present with you, make it as if it's here now. Perhaps it has an aroma, a- like I said, a texture. Noticing how, and perhaps a specific place in your body that receives this soothing. For me, I'm almost feeling the soothing the most in my forehead and top of my head, upper head area. Let that soothing presence be there for you, and notice in your body. And I've given this a bit of time because it takes some time. As I've often mentioned, our body is a little slower in its movements and how we connect. Not always, there's some ways it's very fast, but in generally much faster than the mind. Thoughts come in really fast and we receive them really fast and react to them fast. Physical, our imagery, how we feel it in the body messages take a little bit longer, sometimes a lot longer. And so now, and this is our mini movement today, it's really a movement of just integration of our thinking, our history that we know through our mind, our body, our breathing, and our perceptive attention, where we put our focus. That when we bring all these elements of ourself together, this mind body integration, when we truly look into how the body has stored history, thinking, experience, um, cellularly, but also in patterns in our body, the way we've reacted. I mentioned it in pain last week, but it can be in sort of a traumatic response to something emotional. Our body grips it and holds it in certain patterns, just like the stippled star of the starlings. And perhaps there's something happening in your life now. And remember, you can have that soothing thing nearby. For me, it's I chose my kitty cat who's over there, sleeping over there, and he is a super soothing presence. Um, so have it nearby as this anchor, this feeling of safety and source of soothing as you visit perhaps something that's difficult in your life right now. That's a big, could be a big field. It may be a way that you're relating with someone. It may be a pain that you're having in your shoulder or in your legs or anywhere in your body. And bring that, choose one. There might be many, so just choose one. I'm going to choose my digestive aspect of my stomach, not the small intestines. Actually, I'm going to choose the small intestines. You don't have to differentiate. You could just, if you have GI issues, you can just choose your GI system. But for a specific reason, I'm choosing my small intestine. And again, it could be like a way you react repeatedly to something, someone. It can be a past wound. So let yourself feel into your body, even if it's something that's more relational or story linked to a story or a behavior. Feel where it lands in your body, where it has a home. And if this is new to you, take your time. It may take a little time. Really take your time. But it can be very surprising how clear it is. And if it's not clear, just keep watching, keep feeling, because it's a very different modality to connect our thoughts and history and um, stories to a place in the body. And just sit with that openly if nothing comes, and just hold your story. Meanwhile, the soothing thing is close by. And begin, if you did find it, if you didn't, just stay with the inquiry. If you didn't, then if you have found it, perhaps like a weight on your shoulders or tension in the jaw, go there and bring your own soothing presence with your helper. Before we do that, I often jump this, and this is part of the pattern to break, is let this part of you just feel how it is. And it may be general. I feel like I said this, if it's a heavy weight on your shoulders, um, not just those words, but really feel, inquire, give time to how is it, what is the more specific tone, expression, feeling here. Practice I'm using has a name. It's called focusing, the way my teacher Russell Delman teaches it and his wife Linda together team teach it. Um, and so you may also find that as we inquire this way into it was you initially found it at the shoulders, for example, but maybe it moves and it's like, oh, actually, it's in my gut. So follow it if it goes and let it express. And all the while, here is how we can use, I didn't really jump wrongly, but our soothing, compassionate inquiry, which is another name for another modality that's very similar in this really the same track here. We're bringing this compassionate, soothing attention to whatever this part of us needs to express, express it. And so often, just this practice of letting it say what it's saying. Maybe it's saying, uh, "Oh, I'm burning. I'm burning." And just let that speak and reveal. And you can repeat to it its own words. You're burning. You're burning. So often, just having been heard, something changes, or it wants to express more, or something, another aspect, a change happens. And sometimes the change is already relief, and sometimes it takes a few layers. So come to a place with this part of you, the stomach, the throat, the shoulders, the knees that you're listening to that took in this history, and see if it's let it know that you you're glad that it felt um, comfortable to express itself, and that you're here for it, that you'll be back. If that's true, if you find this interesting. If not, we'll move on to our meditation part, and maybe this is not something that you are interested in. But if you are, you can let it go. But if you are, this is a something that you can come back to. And I've been doing this for 7 years, and it grows our awareness and our this transformation and healing of this bringing together of our own always present compassionate potent um, capacity. The capacity for that is always here, and we can bring it to heal these parts of ourselves. Now you can do this for yourself, but I will say I work with a couple people doing this, a couple people to help me guide me through it, to be my listener. And it's very, very useful to do that, to have somebody guide you through it as I'm doing for you today. But then we can also do it for ourselves. But I don't know if I'll ever give up having a partner helping me through, because there's a next level of power in that. So, if you noticed as I was talking, if you were watching me, I switched to cover myself with my scarf, and I shifted a different prop under my leg. So let's segue. Likely that you're pretty quiet now. Perhaps this practice created an agitation for you. That's also possible. And if so, ground again as we begin our, oh, my candles, thinking, as we begin our meditation practice, which is very like what we just did, but it's more just listening and not looking for something to talk to in the sense in ourselves. Let's begin for about 6 minutes. So I will read to you as you settle, and if you did get in some way thrown off or agitated or felt like distracted, just come back to ground, sound, breath. And as you do, I will read you Starlings in Winter by Mary Oliver. It's from her collection of owls and other fantasies. Just listen in a light way, just receiving, not needing to digest or understand, or just receiving. Very yin. Starlings in winter, chunky and noisy, but with stars in their black feathers. They spring from the telephone wire, and instantly they are acrobats in the freezing wind. And now in the theater of air, they swing over buildings, dipping and rising. They float like one stippled star that opens, becomes for a moment fragmented, then closes again. And you watch and you try, but you simply can't imagine how they do it with no articulated instruction, no pause, only the silent confirmation that they are this notable thing, this wheel of many parts that can rise and spin over and over again, full of gorgeous life. Ah, world, what lessons you prepare for us, even in the leafless winter, even in the ashy city. I am thinking now of grief and getting past it. I feel my boots trying to leave the ground. I feel my heart pumping hard. I want to think again of dangerous and noble things. I want to be light and frolicsome. I want to be improbable, beautiful, and afraid of nothing, as though I had wings. And so we sit as this presence, wide open, boundless awareness, Wabo, sees as if like seeing the starlings. We see the whole movement of it, but we know um, some because we've seen it closer, or we know from being told that there are individual birds that are all communicating, shifting so quickly as one. And this practice we just did, the focusing, where we bringing together just like the birds, the different parts of ourselves, the different parts of this murmuration. Our job in this part of the practice is simply being, resting as this being, receiving the parts, the images that come and go, the feelings, the experiences. So we begin to become more and more familiar with this part of us that is consciousness, that mirrors that essence that is wide open, boundless awareness with no qualities, no bounds, no time, no consciousness is very much like that, but it's our individual lens in each of us beings. Rest. Sense. If there's distraction, there's never any problem with it. In fact, usually when once we notice it and we tend to get agitated, we can start to realize, that's when I tapped into consciousness. Celebrate, celebrate. Just a couple more breaths. Like the parts of this stippled star, I will just list many of you who've been joining over the last months: Christine and Gail and Sandra and Elizabeth, Mary Beth, Christine, another Christine, couple Christines, and Catherine, Pat, Glorianne, Brooke, Nancy, Lauren, Amanda, Kathy, Lisa, Tanya, Ida, Sandy, and I'm sure others who I'm missing. Thank you so much for joining me, for reinforcing this collective, this is all how all these parts are part of the whole, and by noting them, being witness for them, more and more we confirm and allow what I mentioned at the beginning, this allow ourselves to grow to the capacity. Kind of ironically, the more we um, identify and allow each of the parts and the energies and patterns, they get to move and flow and keep space open, like that feeling of that murmuration does, of space, and allowing the for each of us to have more space and listening and awareness of that conduit, and be a conduit for that life force coming through us, and we can express it out. So thanks so much for being here with me for that. Um, and I'll see you next week for our last winter time together for winter session. And enjoy your week. I feel like I'm forgetting something, but that happens. So glad to be here with you.